Let's continue talking more about this, and joining us again, a decorated U.S. Army combat veteran and the founder of Packham Solutions, Cory Mills. Cory is also a Newsmax columnist. Back with us today as well, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. He's also the president of the London Center for Policy Research and National Security Advisor for the Trump 2020 campaign. Cory, Tony, great to see you again. Let's talk a little bit more about this situation. It appears this is one fact that's agreed upon here, Tony, that the president was not briefed on this. If these reports are in fact true, which we don't know they are, why would the president not be briefed on something such as this?
Well, look, I've worked in the entire spectrum of combat operations to finishing intelligence. I have actually conducted interrogations like this where this information came from, John. Apparently, this came incidental to a special operations raid on a cache of cash in Afghanistan, where someone said during interrogation, and I conducted these things, I documented in my book, Operation Dark Heart, conducting an interrogation of an Iranian enabler, which was doing this, and we had to vet and validate that. It wasn't simply reporting it up the chain. It has to go through a process of validation. In this case, CBS has reported that NSA cannot validate this, which means that that information, while may be true, is classified and may not actually be relevant to the Russians at all. So that's why this is the president was not briefed on it, because it wasn't validated.
Yeah, and Cory, you know, I've heard from several people that trying to get this type of intelligence nowadays is like trying to drink from a fire hose, because you have so many people in the intelligence community, number one, trying to make a name for themselves, and so a lot of information gets put forth that maybe doesn't really warrant it. Also, you have a lot of people trying to cover their own butts, putting information in that may be a problem, but, you know, is still maybe far-fetched, like Tony was talking about, stuff that cannot be vetted. Do we need fundamental changes to our intelligence community?
No, I think that we just need to have a better understanding of the intelligence cycle. You know, this cycle is a closed loop, which means that at any point within this cycle, if there's any information which cannot be validated, then you're going to basically have a skewed concept in the end. So reality is that during the processing, it's more than just having the planning and direction element of it, but you have to have the collection, and that could be through human, that could be through SIGINT, geospatial, you name it. But then it has to go through a collating, validating, and evaluation period where it has to have proper analysis that is then put into a format that can be utilized for dissemination and feedback. And if it's not corroborated, you have opposing agencies, whether that be the CIA, DIA, NSA, who are saying we don't have that same information. It's impossible for us to then validate. But we also have to look at whether or not this is counter intel.
Right.
Keep in mind that if it was the Iranians, who we know that Ismail Ghani, the former head or the current head of the Quds Force, was actually utilizing these types of things to bog down the U.S. and detract from the Afghan peace plan, that counterintelligence could have gone forth to say, hey, make sure that they think that it's the Russians. So I'm not saying that it is or it isn't, but I think that there has to be proper validation of this information to ensure credibility.
Right, and it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that the Russians might do something like this. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Tony, the fact that, you know, U.S. military did have an incursion with Russian mercenaries in Syria not too long ago and basically wiped those mercenaries off the face of the earth in that encounter. But let's focus on something that Adam Schiff said today, and we'll get your reaction from it on it, Tony. Here it is.
We should be considering what sanctions are appropriate to further deter Russia's malign activities, not further ingratiating Russia into the community of civilized nations. There may be a reluctance to brief the president on things he doesn't want to hear.
Now, Schiff talking about the need for more sanctions to be put in place, also kind of hitting the president for inviting Vladimir Putin to the G7 summit. What do we do with Russia at this point? You know, you have to engage with Russia. They're a nuclear power. President Trump seems to want to do that, but Democrats think he's being too nice to Vladimir Putin and Russia. So what do we do at this point?
Well, look, I'm doing an editorial on this. Will be out very soon, and I outlined what we've already done. The president's done a number of things to be very provocative, to include pulling us out of the INF nuclear agreement, which was hugely not to the Russian interests. So Adam Schiff is wrong. I'm sorry. We need to be very precise in responding once we validate. Remember, President Reagan was very clear when we had KLA flight 007 shot down, where he actually revealed the intelligence of what happened after we validated it. President Trump would do the same thing as President Reagan on this once it's validated. We cannot act arbitrarily or presumptively without the evidence. Schiff is simply trying to get us in trouble by overreacting before we have validation. Trust me, if the president sees the evidence, we will take strong action, no doubt.
And Cory, don't you think members of Congress, specifically Adam Schiff, should take a step back, given how badly they damaged their own credibility on the Russia impeachment investigation?
Well, I don't know that Nadler or Schiff or Pelosi or any of the Gang of Eight actually have any credibility at this stage. We wasted tens of millions of dollars, years of time doing investigations. We've had Schiff who said that I have validated evidence of Russian collusion, which come to find out to be false. So at this stage, you know, the Democrats are continuing to try and politicize this and in any way possible polarize, utilizing these irresponsible comments like Pelosi just said, where she claimed that maybe the Russians have something on President Trump. Let's get to the facts. This president has been stricter and more adversarial against, you know, Russia, China, Iran, and all these others than any other president before. They want him to act on unvalidated information. But this is the exact thing that they beat up President Bush over when he acted on information that wasn't fully validated. So again, it's a lose-lose situation for the president. He's going to continue to come under attacks by the left. He's going to continue to come under attacks from the media. I think he's doing the right thing by waiting to get validated and credible information so he can target the actual organization who's responsible, look at individual sanctions if possible, and then also wait for John Ratcliffe to brief both the Intelligence Committee and the Armed Service Committees.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, President Trump gets so much flack from Democrats for being too rash and doing things, shooting from the hip. But here he is, you know, kind of holding his breath, waiting for, you know, a calculated, measured response. Again, like I said before with Emerald, nothing's ever good enough for Democrats. Cory, great to see you. Tony, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks,
we'll talk again soon, guys. All right, we're going to talk more about the policing situation. Let's start with Seattle. The 16-year-old